TalktainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalktainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, and welcome to Talktainment Radio. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is radio the way it should be heard. And speaking about being heard, you can see and hear us. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you can see and you can hear us. You can hit the like button, and you can also leave a comment. I will not be able to list all the comments, but management has informed me to give you a shout out, so I will try to do the best that I can on that. Also, you can contact the show by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7 Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Now, if you use the latter, chances are your email will go into a question rotation, and when the time comes, it will come up and your question will be read. I would ask that you not write me a novel because I only have a limited amount of time and space to do that. So make your questions concise, and eventually Mr. Fuller will address it contingent upon the questions that are before you and the amount of time that Mr. Fuller gives to your question. So be concise. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to some. We say that because people listen all over the world, and we do have some of those questions here. So without further ado, let me get out the way and say good morning to you, Mr. Fuller. Good morning.
Good morning.
All righty. And as I usually ask you, how are you today?
I'm still learning.
All righty. Let's do this. For those that have the book, we're going to start. That book is the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, in which we will have Mr. Fuller address at the 45-minute mark. But we're going to start with pages 294 and 295. There are a list of questions that are there, or suggestions as Mr. Fuller presents it, and we're going to have him address a few of those. So get your books out, look over them, read them, and you can address your questions there, and we will try to forward it on. Okay, Mr. Fuller, we're talking about sex again. This is the 5th, I believe, installment of it. Remember that all questions that come in here may not be on subject, but we will have Mr. Fuller address your question. This comes from Trevino Coley, Mr. Fuller. It's from the Gmail line. It says, hello, Mr. Fuller, I have a question for you. I work in a warehouse, and one day I was in the back area cleaning up. 2 white guys came in the warehouse. They did not know I was there and walked past one shelf and bumped into it. The shelf was not secured properly, and the items fell down. One of the white guys said that shelf is not secured properly. The other white guy said, quote, yeah, that's N-word rigged. They both started, end of quote, they both started to laugh. They left later on, and later on that day I saw them at lunch, and they started talking to me all normal, not knowing what I had heard them say. My question to you, Mr. Fuller, is if a white person decides to be a white supremacist, does that mean they always were a white supremacist but just never got the opportunity to be one due to lack of power or status in white society? Thank you for your time, and also where can I donate with PayPal on the show? Let me answer that one, Mr. Fuller. I believe, Ed, you correct me, on the Talktainment homepage under the phone number, under the phone number, there's a button that you can donate that. So do that and we're all good. Okay, Mr. Fuller, go ahead, please.
Well, the codified response to that question is a broad one, but it goes right to the point. It's a standard codified response, and that is, rather than try to pick the time or place that a white person may or may not be a white supremacist, according to counter-racist logic, according to the code, any white person who is able to be a white supremacist, a racist, during the existence of the system of white supremacy, and the system of white supremacy does exist right now, should be suspected of being one until proven different. Until proven different to whom? To whatever victim says that he or she needs proof. Because we don't have a master list. It's based on logic. It's not personal, it's business. It's based on logic. You have a world system of government based on mistreating people of color. That's the most powerful political and religious system in the world, and it's called the system of white supremacy. So, since we don't have a master list, I haven't heard anyone name where you can go and get one, of who is and who is not a white supremacist, then you can suspect that any white person who is able, that's the key term here, able to be a white supremacist, may be one, probably is one. In a system of white supremacy, somebody's got to be a white supremacist. But who is that somebody? I mean, who do you go to find out? How do you know? So just like, or to give an example, they say they think they may have an active shooter on the premises at a school, for instance, and they say active shooter, what's the description? Say, well, we don't know, but we have a report that it may be one somewhere here on the campus, and we have indications that it could be one. So what they do, everybody's on the alert. They don't know who the active shooter may be, what is going to happen. So you just get on the alert, and you are what? You're in a suspicious mode. Could be anybody. Anybody might come out of anywhere. Since they don't really have a profile, a photograph of the active shooter that's been proven to be an active shooter. So it's the same. I just threw that analogy out so that a person might be able to better understand what I'm saying. And it's completely justified. So when you finally hear someone use the N-word and all like that, you just say, well, I have an indication now that these two people, for sure, may or may not be white supremacists. It's for me to determine that as a victim, because they're using the N-word within that particular context. Yes. And that's the response. That's the worldwide response.
Okay.
You always suspect any white person who is able to be a white supremacist to be a white supremacist until proven different.
Right.
Proven different to whom? To any person who needs the proof.
Okay. Let's go to the phone lines. What line are we on? Line number 3? Okay, line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr.
Good morning, gentlemen. Peace and blessings, as usual. Compensatory Constructive Action Meeting every Saturday, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 2000 St. Louis Drive, under the dome, across from Lake Clifton High School in Baltimore, Maryland. Compensatory Constructive Action Meeting every Saturday, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., Baltimore, Maryland, 2800 St. Louis Drive, across from Lake Clifton High School. I wanted to say, once again, we have to keep this issue in the news on the front line. White supremacy is out there, and it's being focused on, so it's really very hypersensitive. They're on the march. They're on the move. They have a lot of people that's non-white covering for them, saying things about non-white people to make it look like, we have a problem. We do have a problem amongst ourselves, but using them to assassinate our own characters. So I just want to say once again, wear your T-shirts, keep your signs available, speak when you can speak on it to other people that are willing to talk about it, just keep it alive, and let's stay motivated on this subject and get rid of this system. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you, sir, and thank you for your call. Let's do this, Mr. Fuller. Let's go again to the Gmails. This is from September the 20th. That goes to show you how long I've been backed up. This is, and you did partially answer this question, Mr. Fuller, but I'm going to give it the full amount now. This comes from JTV, #YouTube. It says, Mr. Fuller, I sent a question today on Facebook Live where it was stated incorrectly. This is the exact question. Mr. Bobby, can you ask Mr. Fuller if he has seen the hit series called Insecure? Mr. Fuller, have you seen the hit series, I believe it's on HBO, called Insecure?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right. Now, if he didn't, can you ask him to take a look at it for me, please, because I'm going to read it just the way he wrote it. Can you ask him to take a look at it for me, because I think it has a lot of programming for the victims of the system, and it has a lot to do with the area of activity called sex. And Mr. Bobby, can you ask Mr. Fuller, are you insecure? Which just would like to know, why is this happening to me, because it's the second time now. I think that was where his question was cut off, because we couldn't get it all on there. JTV #YouTube. I think we have solved that problem. But anyway, Mr. Fuller, you want to know, are you insecure? And so you've already answered the question about you have not seen this program on HBO. So anyway, Mr. Fuller, he wants to know, are you insecure?
No, I'm not secure. Yes, I am insecure. I'm not secure. I don't have any security. I need security. I need to be assured that I'm being treated correctly, but I'm not. I'm in a system of racism. So the system of racism says I'm not supposed to be treated correctly. The system demands that. That's the only system I've ever known. The system absolutely demands that I do not receive justice, that I am a victim of non-justice. That's what the system of white supremacy is about. It's the most powerful government on the planet. It's the most powerful political system, the most powerful religious system in recorded history. And it is the most powerful government right this minute, 2017, in October, on the planet. And I am a prisoner of war of that government. Now, that's either true or false. But I say it's true. And the evidence shows it. So I have the security that a prisoner of war may have, but I don't know what you would call that. I don't know how you would measure the security that goes along with that. Secure how? I mean, people can kill you at any time, get away with it. They can do anything they want to with you if it's in support of the system of white supremacy. Because when you are part of a prison system and you are the victim of that system and a prisoner of that system, you don't have any control over anything, except they may allow you a little leeway in fighting the system, speaking out against it, but they can cut you off at any time.
Yes, sir.
Because I am a prisoner of war. The war has never been declared over. Not even a truce has been declared that I know of. And if it has, I'd like to know when and where, because I'm not feeling the effects of it. I don't see any evidence of it either.
Okay. All righty. All right. TalktainmentRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and, of course, politics. And here are several that I'd like to share with you. Listen, if you like Friday and Saturday night, how about this show? It's called Super Cool with your boy, Kahari Inaharo. Yeah. And then on Saturday night, check this out. Blue Mood Saturday. That's Brother Ed Dozier, the man behind the glass. And you can also catch this show, Jazz Showcase. And that's with Brother Ed also. That's on Saturday and Sunday night. Woo, yeah. All these shows are exclusive to TalktainmentRadio.com. And all you have to do is go to the TalktainmentRadio.com homepage, and then you can find out the time that it comes on. That's from radio, the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Our subject for the 5th week in a row, and we are going to be on it for quite a while, is called sex. If you have any questions, you can call 1-877-932-9766 or do this, facebook.com/Talktainment. That's the number one way you can get to us, where you can also see and hear the program. There's a like button there and also a comment button, and, of course, Gmails, the numeral 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. We're going to go to the phone lines, and let's see what Ed will direct me through. Okay, number 3, you are on. Go ahead with Mr. Fuller.
Yes, can I be heard?
Please, sir, go ahead.
Okay, good morning. I have two simple questions for Mr. Fuller this morning. My first question is, could Mr. Fuller talk about not being surprised by anything really as victims of racism, white supremacy, when it pertains to black people? And my second question to Mr. Fuller is, have you ever studied Spock from the original Star Trek series? If so, what are your thoughts on him? Because he uses logic to form his own conclusions and deduct his own reasonings as well.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I didn't get that last question.
Oh, sir, could you repeat that last question?
Yes, sir. My final question was, have you ever studied Spock from the original Star Trek series? If so, what are your thoughts on him? Because he uses logic as well to form his own conclusions.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
I still didn't get it.
Well, okay, let's answer the first question first. Okay, go ahead.
What was that first question?
Okay, what was your first question, sir?
The very first question was, could you talk about not being surprised by anything under the system of white supremacy?
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Not be surprised. You should be surprised when something happens that should happen. I'll just keep it simple in the codified manner. Try to keep it as simple as you possibly can, including questions and answers. Straight to the point.
Okay.
Don't be surprised at anything that happens that shouldn't happen.
Yes.
Now, that's code.
Okay.
Counter-racist logic. If you are a person classified as non-white anywhere on this planet, never, ever be surprised at anything that happens that shouldn't happen, regardless of what it is. Something happens that shouldn't happen, don't be surprised. Be ready for anything at any time happening that shouldn't happen. Now, a lot of people say, well, that sure is fatalistic. Oh, that's not optimistic at all. That squashes people's hopes and all like that. No, that's being realistic. You're in a prisoner of war camp. The entire world is that. So you don't expect pleasant things to happen in a war. That's number one. The war is still going on. And all of the non-white people of the planet have been put into captivity. Every non-white person on the planet now is under the system of white supremacy, already a prisoner of war. No one is looking to go around and capture you. You were captured before you were born, because you were born in a prison. The name of that prison is the system of white supremacy. You don't expect anything in a prison to happen except something unpleasant. That's the nature of a prison. Killing, derogatory language, people yelling at you, all types of unpleasant things. You're not getting enough food, and the food that you get may be poisonous, but nobody cares. You go to see somebody for help. This is what happens in a prison camp, and you can't get it. You need this for your prison cell. You need that for your prison cell and whatnot. You can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give it to you when we feel like it, if ever. Get out of here. And don't mention it anytime soon.
Okay.
We'll get around to it when we feel like it. That's what happens in a prison camp when you're a prisoner of war. So expect that type of treatment.
Okay.
And I think that covers the first question.
Okay, yeah. And what's the second question, my brother? Again.
Yes, the second question, Mr. Bobby. Has Mr. Fuller ever studied Spock on the original?
Wait a minute, Spock? Okay, because you're breaking up. Okay, about Spock of Star Trek series?
Yes, Spock.
Okay.
Oh, Spock.
Yeah, Mr. Spock.
Oh, now we're getting somewhere.
Okay.
Spock of the movie, the TV series Star Trek.
Yes, sir.
I never looked at any episodes of that, but I have heard about it. Spock is a very mathematical type person. It's a character in that series, I understand, who always thought logically.
Yes.
Okay, so what about him?
He's gone now. He got the time limit expired upon him, but he.
Okay, well, whatever he was saying, I'm saying that if you're talking about the use of logic, I always say, use logic. Logic came with the universe, cause and effect. Fire will burn, water is wet. Once this is proven, you stick with it. You don't deviate from it. And regardless of what people say, regardless of what the latest fashion is and whatnot, fire is still fire. Water is still water. As far back as the last time I checked, that hasn't changed. Heat is not the same as cold. These are logical things. That's what I mean. Follow what you know already exists.
So stick with the logic.
And stick with it.
Yes, sir.
1 and 1 is 2, even on the moon.
Yes, sir.
But the white supremacists, will go around and say, oh, no. Where'd you get that from? They'll just come out of nowhere and change something for their convenience. They'll say, oh, yeah, well, we had racial classifications last year, and they were thus and so. We had 21 last year. Well, we got 47 this year. And you say, why? That's not logical. Just in a year? The racial classifications changed like that. Where'd you get that from? I got it out of my mind, boy. When I say something, it goes. Doesn't make any difference. What I say is logical is logical. Have you people woke up to that yet? It's what I say, not what you think or what you plan. So shut up and take what I say. Boy, gal, get out of here.
Mr. Fuller, excuse me, are you saying that because a white person says it, it's logical?
No.
Okay, all right.
What I'm saying is that's the way they look at everything when it comes to non-white people.
Okay, I got
and that's
you.
the way they talk. And here's what. How do we react to it? After they say it 5 or 6 times, we usually say, yeah, well, yeah, maybe. And then 5 minutes later, I mean, if they say it 2 or 3 times more, you say, yeah, that's logical. Why? That's what we're used to. They tell us what logic is.
Okay.
And this is why we get jerked around from one minute to the next. They come up with new terms, new classifications. What sex is yesterday is not today. Why? Because I said so. That's what. All y'all jump on board with your intellectual selves.
Okay.
Pile in this truck right now and on your way to the death camp. Why? Because I said so. That's the best thing for you. Let's get going. We're wasting time. That's the way they do. And we don't question anything when we should question everything, including our own judgment.
Okay. Shout out to Bartholomew Washington, my brother down in Houston, Texas at BW Gifts. LaShawn King checking in from your neck of the woods, Mr. Fuller, Arlington, Virginia. And Brian Gaston checked in. By the way, we would like to thank you for your continuing support of the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. I know BW, he always is doing it, so thank you. But thank you for all the participants in it. Mr. Fuller, before I take this call, you mentioned in the second caller about the prison system. Would Cool Hand Luke with Paul Newman starring in that, if I recall, would that be another movie that shows what goes on in the prison system?
Yes,
okay.
But I don't think that Cool Hand Luke, in my opinion, has as many lessons in it as the movie Shawshank Redemption.
Okay.
But it does have some.
Okay.
I would think that almost any movie, if you look at each scene, you might be able to get some lessons. See, because sometimes I can't detect the lessons. Sometimes I'll look at the same movie, 2 or 3 times, and I will see a lesson that I missed the first time around or the second time around. And depends on where your mind is at the time. And so you can learn from movies, you can learn from books, but a movie is an easy way. A TV program, you can learn what? And learn what? What to do, what not to do. And things to think about that you haven't thought about before. And look at it from not just 1 or 2 angles, maybe from a dozen angles, just a particular scene. And say, what would I do in those circumstances? How did these characters get in that circumstance? How did that person in this movie, the movie about Wall Street maybe, how did that person evolve and get into those circumstances? What was that person's background? Who did that person contact? And just go scene by scene. You might learn something if you pay attention to details, because a lot of movies reflect things that have happened or could happen. I remember when I first started looking at movies, I was very young, and they were showing people going to the moon. And that was considered absolutely absurd. That was considered total fantasy at the time. The movies had comic book heroes like Flash Gordon and Buck Jones, I think it was, or Buck Rogers.
Buck Rogers.
Right. And I remember some of the characters from reading comic books, and then they made movies out of that, and they showed people, Flash Gordon going to the moon, I think, or Buck Rogers going to the moon and fighting the clay people. Now, that was interesting.
Okay.
Fighting the clay people made out of clay, people made out of mud. They call dark-skinned people mud people, all right? That's a slang term for people of color. That's a white supremacist term. So it was interesting.
Okay.
That might be what they're looking for now when they go in outer space.
Okay.
They're looking for some mud people or some clay people to kill and mess with. Don't have enough of them here. Got to go somewhere else, millions of miles away, and find some new ones to mess with.
Okay. TalktainmentRadio.com. App to your seller to your talent. That's radio the way it should be heard. We'll be right back.
Queen's Legacy of Love 12 brand launch and grand opening. Currently looking for hosts, photographers, models, dancers, entertainers, ushers, comedians, production managers, model coordinators, stage crew, vendors, volunteers, sponsors, public relations and media personnel, and extras. Contact ggoldqqueen22@yahoo.com.
Queens of Queens.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin online at www.ashkickin.com.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cut Above the Rest barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Think fast. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can become a big fire. Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov because fire is everyone's fight.
Do you have problems controlling high blood pressure? Good news. You can enroll in Helping Hands Health and Wellness Center's health coaching program utilizing the innovative Twine Health platform. We will help you set your goals, keep in touch with you via your cell phone, and may provide you a free blood pressure cuff. Call us at 614-462-0114 or visit us on the web at www.helpinghandsfreeclinic.org to see if you qualify. This program is provided to you by a grant from the CVS Health Foundation.
See that cute little dog in the pet store? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppies to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. Visit bestfriends.org/puppy mills to learn more.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
All right. TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalktainmentRadio.com app to your cell, to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can by going to facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can hit a like button is there and also a comment button. And we would appreciate that you do that. By the way, if you do that, now, right at this particular moment, I don't have access to the crawl that comes underneath the screen that I occasionally look at where I can see your comments and your likes. But thanks for your comments anyway. And Ed at times will bring me your likes and your statements, and then I can read them. So I'm not ignoring you. It's just that at this day I don't have commented, but I think he's going to fix that right now as we speak. Also, to close out the last section, section we were in, basically, Mr. Fuller, you're saying to make sure that you ask questions, because the answer to any problems is to ask questions and then stick with the logic. Would that be correct?
Yes, ask questions. And I'd like to say, emphasize again on this program, try to keep your comments short, so that other people can get their questions in. Right. I have received calls. I'm not talking about you, Mr. Bob.
I understand.
But I'm talking about some of the callers. Sometimes they make a long comment, and sometimes they don't have a question.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people who are waiting who have questions.
Absolutely.
So, I try to answer questions right from the code book and right from the codified philosophy. Even if I don't have it written down in the book, there is a response, a codified response to everything, even if the response is, in many cases, this will be the case, the response from me will be, I don't know. Why? Because I don't know.
Okay.
And if I don't have a codified response, I just simply say I don't know. I haven't codified that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But everything should be codified, because there is an answer to every question. It's just a matter of finding out what the correct answer is.
Okay. So there you have it. Please make them short. Okay, speaking about that, let's go to the phone lines. What line are we on? 3? Okay. 3 is working today. Go ahead. You're on with Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir. Checking in from Concept, Dallas, Texas. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I have 2 questions, if time permits. Number 1. On page 350, the third suggestion listed says verbatim, do not allow your offspring to ever see you in any direct sexual intercourse situation, bed, etc., with any person except the same non-white person with whom you produce that particular offspring. Could you expound, sir?
Now, where is that located?
It's on page 350. Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir, the third suggestion.
What is that question?
It says do not. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. It says do not allow your offspring to ever see you in any direct sexual intercourse situation, bed, etc., with any person except the same non-white person with whom you produce that particular offspring. Could you expound on that, please?
Yes. Do not allow your offspring to ever see you in any direct sexual intercourse situation with any person except the same non-white person with whom you produce the particular offspring. Right. I mean, that's the codified situation. Now, you might say, well, suppose you are a stepfather, all right? Well, that is, like it always, using logic, exception to that rule. And maybe I should have put that in there. That was an interesting observation, too. I don't know if you observed that or not. But, see, that requires some thought of the other person. Do not allow your offspring to ever see you in any direct sexual intercourse situation with any person except the same non-white person with whom you produced a particular offspring. Now, in the case of a stepfather, first of all, you shouldn't allow your offspring to see you having sexual intercourse with anybody, really. But if they happen to walk in, I mean, you make sure that you are the official, legitimate, and blood offspring
of that particular couple. That eases the so-called embarrassment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just not a healthy situation for any offspring to witness their elders, you might say, having sexual intercourse anyhow. Young people. That's private. It's just a better environment that way.
Okay. What was the second question, sir?
Yes, sir. Is it necessary for black males and black females to agree on every issue, or is there ever a time when disagreements are healthy?
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Fuller?
Thank you.
Yes. There is a time when disagreements are healthy. You're going to have disagreements.
Yes.
Because sometimes you can think that you're correct and you're not. And a person will point that out to you. So that brings about a disagreement. But the whole idea is you raise questions and you come up with answers to questions in a logical way. You seek the logic. You stay away from the personalities. Once you get into the personalities and start name calling and start talking about what the other person doesn't know and how much education the other person has and all like that, then it's all downhill from then on. I mean, you don't get into that. You seek the logic. What is the answer that would fit anybody, anywhere, at any time? Because all questions, all problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. So it's just a matter of, if there's a disagreement, you go into the question mode, and you ask and answer every question. If it's a question about money, all right, you just don't stop at one or two questions. You ask every question and answer every question that would apply to anyone who is in that situation. That's how you keep it from becoming personal. See, because if we're talking to a person, we have a tendency to make everything personal. We start, while we're talking, we are just evaluating the other person's knowledge and understanding, when you should be evaluating what is being said. See, it's what is being said. If someone even says something about you, the first thing you want to know is not who said it. You want to know, is it true? See, that's what I mean by being logical. And it's the same way when settling any dispute. You go to the logic. Let the logic settle the dispute. And then everybody will be on the same page if they're going in the correct direction.
Okay. TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, and you can download the TalktainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and our subject today, and for the next, I don't know how many weeks it's going to be. It's going to be quite a while. We're talking about sex in the system of racism and white supremacy. Along with that, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you may do so by calling 1-877-932-9766 or primarily Facebook.com/Talktainment, where there is a like button and a comment button right there, which you can leave if you'd like. And also, you can get in contact with the show by using my Gmail, the numeral 7, MrBobby@gmail.com, and your question goes in rotation, and we'll try to get that. Mr. Fuller, this is the 45-minute mark, and at that time, we have set aside for you to speak to your book. So the floor is yours.
You can get the book by going to producejustice.com, producejustice.com. And at that website, you should also get some other information, like I haven't seen it lately myself, but you can also get information about this program, TalktainmentRadio.com. And so when you order the book, what you'll be ordering is the book that's directed toward the individual victim of white supremacy. Racism is white supremacy. White supremacy is racism. Sometimes people say racism and white supremacy. No, racism is white supremacy. There's no other form of racism other than the system of white supremacy. So victims of racism cannot be racist because you're a victim of racism. Once you become a victim of racism, you're in their prison camp. They're not in your prison camp. So, both people can't be in prisoners of each other at the same time. I mean, because one has the power to do what? Be selective. One can choose what he or she is going to do. But the prisoner cannot make that choice. That's the difference. So sometimes people will say, well, the warden's in prison with me. And how do you know that? Because I see the warden every day, and he's right here in the same prison with me, so the warden is a prisoner too. No, but the warden can come and go outside of the prison. The warden is not a prisoner. It just seems that way because he or she is on the other side of the bars. Now, that's what you call Negro logic, when they'll say, the warden, I got the warden here as a prisoner because the warden is on the other side of the bars, just like I'm on the other side of the bars. But see, you just have that 12 feet that you can move around in. The warden can move all over the world, which it does within the context of the system of white supremacy. That's the difference. That's the logic. You don't want to use what they call Negro logic.
Oh, okay. Before we go to the phone calls, I was asked, outside of the continental so-called United States, can you get this book?
Yes, you can get it in the United Kingdom. Now, we're having problems with the Canadian mailings right now, so I've been told, but that's been in the process of being straightened out.
Okay, very good. Okay. All righty.
I'm told as of last night that it has been available for a little while now.
Okay.
In the United Kingdom.
Very good.
In England.
Yes, yes. Okay. What line? 3? Okay. Line number 3, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller. What is your question?
Hello? Hello?
What is your question?
Hello? Oh, yes. Mark, how you doing? My name is Gregory. I have a question for Mr. Fuller. I was curious to know what he thought about the position of Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, and now that he says that if he were able to get back in the NFL, that he would not take, he would salute the flag. I was wondering if he thought he would be backtracking, or what he thought about that.
Okay,
Mr. Fuller?
Now, if I understand the question, here again, I have to understand the question. People taking the knee. And the question about that is, what's the situation now?
No, it was generally like Colin Kaepernick. He took a knee. He was the first one to do it initially, but he was saying that if he were allowed to be back in the NFL, that he would salute the flag. So I was wondering if he thought he should stick to his original position and what he did initially.
Well, the code response to that is, here again, we are prisoners of war, so the wardens of that prison are, directly, indirectly, white supremacists. So if you're classified as non-white and you're told you have to do something in a prison dominated by the white supremacists in order to, what you call, get in a better position, using the Shawshank Redemption movie, Andy Dufresne, who was a prisoner in there, a white one, of course, but he tried several things, like calling the warden names, and he got punished for it. So if you don't want to get punished, then you conform, and no other prisoner should criticize you for it. If you back down, if you take a stand or take a knee, and the person who has authority over you says, no, you can't do that. You can't express your feelings or your viewpoints on racism by doing that in this forum, or I will cut you off from your money. Now, do you want to go back on welfare and be in the welfare line or something? I mean, or trying to nickel and dime with some drugs on a street corner or something, you know, and get into bigger trouble and not be able to pay your bills and all like that. Now, take your choice. All right, so any person who says, well, yes, I'm going to take that knee and you can fire me and I'll go back to being on welfare. And if his buddy standing next to him said, well, I took a knee, but I ain't doing that. I'm not going back starting all over again. All right, so I will conform to what you're telling me to do. Now, what does the code say about that? That's what the code says about it. It's a united independent. Each individual, and no non-white person should criticize another non-white person's response to the system of white supremacy as an individual. You should expect that. And you should accept that. Why? Because you're not in charge of anything anyway. You're not in charge of your fellow prisoner. So your fellow prisoner has to make his or her own decisions. It doesn't help to criticize, you know, and start looking for who the Tom is in the prison ward, in the cell block, and whatnot, because we're all Toms, if you want to use that term. Once you became a prisoner, you are serving the prison system. I don't care where you are. If you are non-white, you are serving the system of white supremacy. I don't care who you are or where you are. So it's just a matter of the degree of pain that you are willing to take. Now, I have been tinkering with some ideas of what I'm supposed to do when these issues come up. Like I said, you codify everything. You're not in charge of anything anyway. You're not in charge. Hello? The person has to make his decision.
Wait a minute.
It doesn't help.
Wait a minute. We can't. Wait a minute.
I'm not hearing something here. The prison ward.
Just a minute here. What line are we going to, Ed? Line number 1? Okay, well, there's some background. Just a minute. Trying to go to line number 1. Okay, let's see if we can get it now. Line number 1. Not yet? Okay. In the meantime, this was put up here. Going to make an exception here. It says, greetings, Mr. Bobby. As you well are aware, every Wednesday when the compensatory concept is aired live, we have some kind of shenanigans that interrupts the broadcast from being uninterrupted. I listen live and the podcast on TalktainmentRadio app. Thank you. Still waiting for the show from 9/6/17 to be posted if it was recorded. Has that show been recorded and posted yet? It's down? Okay. Root Dog, I just was told that it was down, so it should be good to go. Okay, are we going to take this call or what? Okay. Okay, line number 3. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Bobby. Mr. Fuller, how you doing today?
Good morning.
I have a question for Mr. Fuller. I came in contact with the code concept through Dr. Francis's discussion on Hidden Colors documentary. And he mentioned specifically that you made a analysis that the white supremacy will be so effective on black males that we would end up wearing dresses. My question is, what observations or evidence did you see to come to that conclusion? And the second part is, you discussed that in the book.
I just concluded that logically speaking, the sexual urge is a very strong urge. It's the second most powerful urge among the average person on the planet to the influence of the system of white supremacy itself. So the white supremacists do not let the 8th area of activity go unnoticed. In fact, they put a lot of their resources into what the sexual conduct of their victims is or is not going to be. According to what? According to what their wishes are. See, so it was when black males, after the 1960s, all over the world, start asserting their quote-unquote willingness to to try to go from boys to men. They even had a singing group called that, From Boys to Men. And the people that Martin Luther King was addressing, their plight in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968, when he went there to look at the situation with the people who were on strike there. A lot of the black males at that time, if you'll see photographs, were carrying signs saying what? I am a man. Because we're treated like boys in the prison of white supremacy. Because we do have that status. That is our status. That's our status, you might say. We are treated as boys and girls, all right, rather than men and women. Why? Because we're totally dependent. We're totally helpless as prisoners of war. So we want to be men. We want to be women. So the white supremacists took a look at that in the 1960s, and there were so many riots and whatnot, and people walking around with signs saying, I'm a man. And going back to some of the latest in history, what was the question raised by Sojourner Truth, I think? Ain't I a woman? Or something like that. I think it was Sojourner Truth that raised that question among a bunch of white men. Ain't I a woman? Am I not a woman? You know, you treat me as a girl, as a thing. Am I not a woman? You know, whatever a woman is supposed to mean as a woman. See, so where am I going with this? After the 1960s and that upheaval, I noticed immediately, and that's when I made a talk at Howard University. And I told people, I said, the next logical move that the white supremacists will make now, with all of this desire for manhood and womanhood, the white supremacists are going to say, oh no, the only men and women on this planet in the system of white supremacy are going to be white. So you can be boys and you can be girls, all you non-white people. Or if you don't want to be boys and girls, then you can be something other than boys and girls, which will mean you just change your sex. Your females will become males or pretense males or phony males, and your males will become females. You can do that, but you're not going to be men and women. You'll be heading toward being universal man and universal woman, and we're not going to have that. As long as we have the system of white supremacy, all men will be white, and all women will be white. Now, you all can be some type of things, or you can be boys and girls, which is what you are now. But if you try to change that, you're going to have to get rid of your sexuality. And your males are going to have to become fake females. And your females are going to have to become fake males. And I will help you to do that, and I will promote it. I'll make movies about it. I will dress you up so that you're opposite. You know, if you're a female, you're swaggering around, wanting to be a male, lusting to be a male, want to have all the male characteristics, get rid of all the female characteristics. And if you're a male, get rid of all the male characteristics and take on the female characteristics as best you possibly can. And I'll castrate you or do anything that you want to do and help you get money to do it and finance it. And we'll have what? Maximum confusion, which is what I thrive on anyway as a white supremacist. That's the plan, and that plan is galloping ahead at full speed worldwide right now.
Wow. That's deep, Mr. Fuller. That's deep. Whew. Before we get off the air here, or rather go to the second hour, from Team Tehran reported on the Colin Kaepernick thing, said that report is false. He did not state that he would stand for the anthem, and that there was misreported. Anyway, thanks for listening. TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalktainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. Talktainmentradio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest, and not necessarily those of TalktainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and our subject here for the fifth consecutive week is the subject of sex in this system of racism and white supremacy. Mr. Fuller will take your calls by calling 1-877-932-9766. He will address that. But a better way is go to facebook.com/talktainment. That's facebook.com/talktainment. And there you can, there's a comment button where you can comment. You can also hit the like button, and also you can see and hear us do the program. So that's another way. Then the third way is going to my Gmail page, which is the numeral 7, MrBobby@gmail.com, and I will, your Gmail will be added to the list. There are about 50 questions ahead of you, and as you can see, we're letting the show flow the way that it will. Questions and then callers and then Gmail. So if you do elect to use a Gmail, just know that it will not be answered or will be answered in rotation. Speaking about 6, let's go to the phone lines. Line 3. Okay, line 3 is getting a workout today. Line 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Bobby, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I got a question that's very important that I want to ask Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, are you aware of what the FBI report that came out in August the 23rd of 2017 called the BIE?
No,
a directive?
I'm not aware of it.
Are you? You're not
aware of it?
Okay, real quick, the whole audience listen, please. The FBI came out with a narrative on the 23rd. You can look this up, of August 23rd, 2017, stating that any black person that was not willing to salute the flag and do this was becoming a terrorist. Technically, they are terrorists to the United States government. They will be watched. If you're claiming Moorish heritage or Moorish, you're already on the watch list. This is very important. It's been put out. This came from 2017, but actually this is a Barack Obama report from the Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin response of the FBI to the counterterrorism going in this country. They basically claim that the black man is the number one terrorist in this country against the United States.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Fuller, you respond to that, please?
Well, I haven't heard about that report, but there's a codified response to flags. that's already in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, the basic textbook that you can get by going to producejustice.com. Now, it's a pledge to the flag. It's a universal pledge. It'll fit any flag, anytime, anywhere, anytime, night or day, wherever you are on the planet. And it will apply to any flag. So it'll settle that flag thing forever, in my opinion, or it should. Or if a person wants to discuss it and say it hasn't settled it, then discuss it. But you stick with it. And I'll take that pledge, because I will take the pledge. If I'm told I must take the pledge, I'll take the pledge. But the pledge will consist of these words that are very true and will apply to any flag at any time under any circumstance. And the words are as follows. It took me several years to come up with just this very short pledge. It's very short, right to the point, and it fits. And if you try it yourself, I don't think anybody can argue against it. Nobody will have a case. They can't haul you into court or put you on any kind of list and say you're unpatriotic, because it's the most patriotic pledge, I think, that will ever be thought of, as far as I'm concerned. And if someone thinks of one better, I'm willing to go along with that one, because I want to go with the best. So what is that pledge? It goes like this. It's the one I came up with about 1980. I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. Unquote. That's it. I do at all times, underline all, even when you're asleep. Even when you are asleep, that will apply. I do at all times relate to the flag. What flag? Any flag. The exact same way that the flag relates to me. Now, when you make that statement, you are telling the truth. No one can say you're not telling the truth. There are some flag pledges that are not even telling the truth. And it's obvious. Okay? If you look at the words of a lot of pledges, I mean, you will find that there's some parts of it that, hey, that's not true. All right? I mean, so you don't want to take a pledge to a flag when you're making statements about the flag that are not true. I mean, if that's not so-called quote, unquote, whatever you mean by it, disrespectful, I don't know what is. You're going to say something about the flag that ain't true? All right? And the one that I have heard, the one that I was taught, that's not true. If you look at the words of it, that's not true. That can't be true. But that pledge, that compensatory, universal flag, that's the title of it. Compensatory, making up for what's missing. Universal flag is in the code book, in the textbook for victims of white supremacy. I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. Now, people have asked me, since I've been saying that for some years now, say, well, Fuller, how does the flag relate to you? Then you repeat the same thing you said before. What did I say? So you don't deviate. You say, I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way the flag relates to me. And they'll say, oh, you're being evasive. You're being this. And they're going to come at you all kinds of ways. And you just keep repeating what you say. Now, if they say, well, say something different. I demand that you say something different. And you say, okay, you don't want me to say the truth? And that is, I do at all times relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me. Say, no, don't say that. Okay, then I'll say, well, what do you want me to say? And then if they got a gun to your head, or they say they're going to fire you from the job and all like that, then you say what they want you to say. But if they say, just tell you to say something different, you say, oh, you want me to say something different on my own. And they still allow you to say something on your own, then you say the same thing you said before. I do it all times, relate to the flag the exact same way that the flag relates to me, and they may ask a question at that time in exasperation, because this is the logical way they would go. They'd say, well, how does the flag relate to you? And you can say what? Tell the truth. You say, I don't know, but you can ask the flag.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't get no better than that. Anybody come up with a better response than that, I want to know what it is, because I'll adopt it.
You know, I did write that down, Mr. Fuller, and
that's in the textbook already.
You know what page that's on? Well, if you do, please let me know, because I want to forward that to Demora Smith of the Players Association of the NFL.
You can tell that to the whole world.
We are. You just did.
Ceremonies and whatnot, that will fit anywhere. And if anybody challenges that, they're challenging the truth. Good luck with challenging the truth.
You just did. You just told the whole world that. But I have some contacts, so maybe Mr. Goodell, Mr. Smith, and whoever's in the White House can get this and go from there. Okay. Is that a call on there? Line 3? Okay, line 3. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is, well, I don't want to give a name for specific reasons.
Okay.
The questions that I had, he just answered the question.
Oh, good.
It was about the flag and the protest and all that with the kneeling. But the reason I had the question is because I've talked to you, Mr. Fuller, personally a few times, usually late at night. But my son, a couple of years ago, my son had the opportunity to go to Division I college. And he was raised on the compensatory concept system. I raised him like that. He was raised to respect other people and all the aspects of the book and of the code. And he had the opportunity to go to college to play Division I football, and I was torn between sending him and letting him go, because I don't really get into entertainment / sport and play. But you told me to let him take that opportunity to go to college and get his education, and maybe in whatever the football does for him, it will do for him, but he will get the education. And I just want to let you know that he graduated in December. He got his degree, and he's one of the best players, one of the most popular players in the country right now for this Division I team right now. And if it wasn't for you, I really was about to try to discourage him from going, but his whole life has turned around and everything. I just want to thank you for telling me what you told me about football and going to school, getting an education, and taking advantage of your opportunity.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Fuller, I know you don't like, I guess the word is praise, but you have a comment about that last caller statement?
No, it speaks for itself. See, everything in codification is not about Neely Fuller. It's about logic. And everything and logic says search for the truth of every situation that you're in, and then evaluate that truth and try to use the truth in such manner as to produce a product called justice as best you can in a prison system. Now, that calls for some thinking, because you have to look at your situation. You're not so-called free. You're in a prison called the system of white supremacy. You're already a prisoner of war. So you have to improvise. You have to compensate. That's why the code is called the counter-racist compensatory code. It's making up for what's missing. What's missing? Justice is missing. But that's what you're trying to produce. The white supremacists are against justice. All right? That's what that whole system is designed for. What is justice? I had to make up a definition for that, a compensatory definition, because I didn't think the ones that I had been exposed to made sense. They weren't logical. They were too abstract. So it consists of two things. What? Guaranteeing that no person is mistreated. That's number one. And number two, guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help. Now that's the compensatory definition for the word justice, which I found out in 1994 there is no official definition for the word justice. I didn't know that until 1994. There's no legal definition for the word justice. They just say treating people fairly. Well, the word fair can mean white. I mean, you know, well, you can say, yeah, well, treat people like you treat white people. Well, white people, in many cases, do not treat white people correctly. All right? As in the case, you might say of what? The Las Vegas shooter that was in the news, correct? You know, for some reason, he's shooting a lot of white people along with the black person that he killed, okay? But that's not the way to settle anything, is to indiscriminately just shoot people. I mean, and, you know, and hope that you shot the person that you really wanted to shoot. I don't know what that's all about. I mean, when it comes to killing people, you should know what you're doing and why you're doing it. And, you know, even if nobody else does. And that's the compensatory way.
Yes, sir.
Anytime anybody kills someone, you should be able to stand up and tell the whole world. I just want to interject that, too. That includes a lot of black people out here doing a lot of killing. Anytime you kill anybody for any reason, two things are absolute. Everybody in the world should know who did it and why. Those two things. That should be absolute, should apply to anybody, white, non-white, male, female, anywhere on the planet at any time. There should be no such thing as a secret killing. When you take somebody out of this world, you know, regardless of the reason, self-defense or whatever, when you take someone out of this world, you stop someone from breathing deliberately, you should be willing and able to tell the whole world who did it, which means you, and why. And if you don't do it, everybody should do it for you.
Mr. Fuller,
There's no such thing as no secret killing. It shouldn't happen anywhere on the planet.
Okay.
You don't kill people in secret.
Before I go to break, would that also include your statement? Would that also include those who are the head of organized crime units? And I'm not going to call any names, but when they off other people, should they also be included in that group, or, you know, by saying that they killed so-and-so or so-and-so and why?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody who kills anybody under any circumstance.
Okay.
When you willfully and deliberately kill anybody, but, you know, two things should be known to everybody immediately, and that is who did the killing and why you did it.
Okay.
Every gangbanger should say, yes, I killed him, and I'm going to tell you why I did it. All right? And anybody that doesn't like it, so be it. See, for one thing, you know, when you kill somebody in secret, that means you're scared of somebody. Particularly if you're a gangbanger, you ain't supposed to be scared of nothing.
Even if it's governments that do it?
You are killing people. Doesn't make any difference who kills who. You stand by your work. That's what it's called in the code book. Stand by your work.
So if
you're a carpenter, stand by your work.
If what you say is true,
stand by somebody else's work.
Okay. So if what you say is true, and governments or whatever you call them around the world off people, you're saying that they are scared of people, and that's why they do that?
No, I'm saying the compensatory code says that killing shouldn't be a game.
I got that.
Killing is serious business, and so serious business means you start with what? Truth. And I'm just saying, regardless of why you kill someone, you should be able to tell why. I killed the person in self-defense. That's why you killed them. Or I killed them because I didn't like them. Or I killed them because of their color. Say that.
Okay.
See what I mean?
Okay.
Tell the truth. Because killing is serious business. It hasn't been taken seriously.
Okay.
You look at any newspaper every morning, and you'll see, Willie Jones was killed in a certain section of any city, and sometimes it wasn't even Willie Jones. It was Willie Smith. All right, they didn't even get the name right. That goes to show you how they just casually toss off, a body was found in an alley. I mean, we just say things like that, like, well, turn the page, it's what else is new. That ain't nothing. Somebody get killed every night around here. I mean, no big deal. We got a slogan out that came out a couple of years ago, Black Lives Matter. All right? All right, do they really? Matter to whom? That's the question. All right? Black Lives Matter to whom? Okay, can you find someone that Black Lives Matter to, including a lot of black people? Because we have glorified killing. The system of white supremacy glorifies killing. They like killing. They like seeing things dead, body counts. They love it. Okay? They lust for it. That's why they have so many instruments of death. They got more people who are willing to kill than people who are willing to save lives. All right? I mean, people who are running around with stretchers all over the place, and people who are studying medicine and whatnot. Oh, no. Study to be a killer. Don't study to be a person who repairs someone who has been damaged. That's what the system of white supremacy breeds. We mentioned on this program just last week, what? Oscars. You get an award for motion picture excellence. And it's called an Oscar. They give you a statuette. That statuette is carrying what? A sword. Not carrying anything that's going to cure somebody. It's carrying something that's going to kill somebody. And I guess that's why you have so many motion pictures that are about killing. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be all about. I don't know. You have to ask the people that come up with these things.
TalktainmentRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge, worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news and lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics. And here are several that I would like to share with you right now. The Voice of the Pink Panther with Lynetta Smith. It's Your Time to Travel by Ricky Tyus. And Everlasting Life by Michelle Vanal. All these programs are exclusive to TalktainmentRadio.com, and all you have to do is click on the TalktainmentRadio.com homepage, look under programs, and you can just click it on. While you're there, hit that donate button too. We take donations all year round. But all these shows are exclusive to TalktainmentRadio.com, which is radio the way it should be heard. You are listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. And if you'd like to get in contact with the show, you can see and hear the show by going to facebook.com/Talktainment, where there is a like button and a comment button. I don't have any of those comments before me right now. When they do come up, Ed will give them to me, and he has at times or earlier in the show. You can also go to or call 1-877-932-9766. And you can Gmail me at the Gmail address, the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Let's go to the phone lines. And we are on 3. 3 is getting a workout today. Number 3, you're on. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. I'm going to say this is one of the best and most timely discussions about the condition of black people or non-white people, and I'm most appreciative of Mr. Fuller's efforts to bring a discussion, an intelligent discussion, to fore, so that people can hear, in many instances, their own thoughts come back to them, but also to hear a rational, reasonable, as he says, a logical explanation as well as a logical course in order to improve the condition and the quality of our lives, and ultimately to transform this system of white supremacy into a system of justice. I cannot imagine that any of the people who have come before us had any notion other than what Mr. Fuller is speaking about constantly. And I'm just amazed at how people are so reluctant to basically just change things that are obviously wrong. It's like a person being an alcoholic, and they realize they're an alcoholic, and yet they continue to drink. And because of their drinking, they lose family, they lose friends, and they realize that's what's happening, but they continue to drink. And that's kind of the way I see a lot of us. We take it like a joke, the things that Mr. Fuller brings to fore. Mm-hmm. And it's not a joke.
Okay.
It's a very serious issue of the quality of life.
Alrighty.
That we deserve to have. Not something that we should have to fight for. We deserve to have it. So when we don't have it, we're being cheated out of it. And I don't want to think that my great-grandparents and my grandparents and even my parents suffered the things.
Mm-hmm.
Sir?
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. We're just up against time. We can only give you about 2 minutes. That's the only way. We didn't mean to actually cut you off, but you only have 2 minutes to be able to ask a question or get a point across. So don't be offended. We just have to keep it moving. But thank you for your comment. As Mr. Fuller had stated earlier about when people comment, what was that comment that you made earlier, Mr. Fuller, when people call in?
The comments about what?
I mean, about the show. Or when they want to ask you questions, you made a comment.
Oh, yes. Try to go right to your question and try to make your question short, because if your question is kind of convoluted, I want to give due regard to the question, but if there's too many elements in the question, I will lose track. My mind is kind of slow now. I'm slowing down. I'm getting old. And so I will lose track of what the question is, and you won't get the correct answer according to the code. I want to, I always grade myself at the end of the program, not on the content so much as on two things, focus and clarity. And I've never given myself, out of 4 stars, I've never given myself any more than 2.5, because I don't think that I'm very focused or very clear in some of my responses when I evaluate myself. It ain't personal, it's business. And I have to be honest with myself when it comes to counter-racist logic, because logic will not play with anybody. It doesn't play with me. It's all business. That's the nature of logic that came with the universe. That's the nature of getting things done. That's what it's all about. It's not about anybody's personality, trying to build anybody up or tear anybody down. It's about doing the best possible thing in every circumstance. That's the compensatory codified way. The best possible thing in every circumstance. What to do and what to say, because everything is about doing and saying. The correct thing to do, the best possible thing that anybody can ever do in a million years. That's what you want to happen each and every minute of the day. If it's something to be said, you want to say the best possible thing that can ever be said into infinity. Nothing can ever be said better than that. That should be the aim. Anything short of that should be considered unacceptable.
TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the TalktainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Hopefully more of your Gmails, more of your questions, and more of Mr. Fuller. All that coming up next on TalktainmentRadio.com.
Legacy of Love 12 grand launch and grand opening. Currently looking for hosts, photographers, models, dancers, entertainers, ushers, comedians, production managers, model coordinators, stage crew, vendors, volunteers, sponsors, public relations and media personnel, and extras. Contact ggoldqqueen22@yahoo.com. Queens of Queens.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kickin online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kickin products are better than those other guys. Ash Kickin candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kickin online at www.ashkickin.com.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
Think fast. In less than 30 seconds, a small flame can become a big fire. Don't let your world go up in smoke. Have working smoke alarms and keep heaters 3 feet away from anything that can burn. Learn more at usfa.fema.gov because fire is everyone's fight.
Do you have problems controlling high blood pressure? Good news. You can enroll in Helping Hands Health and Wellness Center's health coaching program utilizing the innovative Twine Health platform. We will help you set your goals, keep in touch with you via your cell phone, and may provide you a free blood pressure cuff. Call us at 614-462-0114 or visit us on the web at www.helpinghandsfreeclinic.org to see if you qualify. This program is provided to you by a grant from the CVS Health Foundation.
See that cute little dog in the pet store? Chances are it came from a puppy mill, a breeding facility that forces caged, neglected, and often sick dogs to churn out puppies to be sold for profit. Meanwhile, millions of wonderful, healthy pets end up in animal shelters. But with one simple choice, you can help, just by deciding to adopt instead of purchase your next pet. Not only are you saving a life, you're taking a stand against puppy mills. Visit bestfriends.org/puppy mills to learn more.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalktainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalktainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. This is Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Believe it or not, we are in the 8th area of people activity, which happens to be the area of sex. But as you can tell, Mr. Fuller answers any questions that you may have to ask even if it is off topic. It doesn't matter. That's the way he wants it, and that's the way it is. Going to the not the phone line, but you can do that by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can go to facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can see and hear the program. You can also make a comment, but that position is not available to me on this day. Or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. Mr. Fuller, this comes from OM. The question is, hello, Mr. Fuller, when asking a question or giving an answer to a white person, is it okay to use the term white supremacy if necessary? Keep in mind, I do not mean calling a white person a white supremacist or racist, because I know that is strictly prohibited in the Compensatory Code Concept. Thank you.
Yes, you can use the term white supremacy, and if anybody objects to you using any term, go into the question mode. Why do they object? And what do they want you to do? I'll go back to those 4 things in economics that is in the 2016 edition. There's 4 basics that will apply anywhere, 4 questions that you can ask about anything, anywhere, at any time, and will fit anywhere on the planet. You can come up with these 4 things. What do you want me to do? All right? Or what do you want to do? Either one. All right? You can paraphrase it and put the me in there, but as it is in the book, the 2016 edition of the code book, 4 questions. What do you want to do? Everybody wants to do something from one minute to the next, each and every day. You have wants, W-A-N-T-S. So if a person objects to you using a term, you say, well, what do you want to do? Or what do you want me to do? And our next question is, why do you want me to do it? Why is it you want me to stop using the term white supremacy? Okay? If that's what you want me to stop doing, something you want me to stop doing, all right? Because that's something you want done. You want me to stop doing something. Okay? Why do you want me to stop doing it? And then the third question, how do you plan for me to stop doing it? And you say, well, I plan for you to stop doing it because I'm just telling you to, or I'm asking you to. All right? Because I don't think it's a term you should use. That might be the answer. You don't never help the person with the answer, by the way. Once you ask the question, wait for that person's answer, so that will be that person's answer. That's what you want to testify to, that wasn't your answer. You already have your answer, maybe, but you don't want your answer. You already have that. You wouldn't ask for something you already have. So you want the other person's answer to what you're talking about, to the question. And then the 4th question is the clincher. What do you expect the constructive result to be? Now, the person hypothetically might say, well, if you don't use the term white supremacy, you can, you won't be offending anybody as much as you would if you used the term. Okay? Anybody like whom? See, you just keep following the logic by asking further questions. No such thing as too many questions. All right? And they'll say, well, if you offend people, they may not want to talk to you. Say, well, do you want to talk to me? After I use the term white supremacy, say, well, I feel very uncomfortable talking to you, and I'll try to get away from you if you keep doing it. Say, well, since we're having a conversation, I don't want you to run from me. I don't want you to... I agreed to have a conversation with you, so why would I want you to run? That's not logic. All right, run away from the conversation. So, okay. So why are we having this conversation? All right? And what is the conversation about? See, just start asking questions. Start using your mind. Your mind should be turning all the time. If we are talking, what are we talking about? Why are we talking? In order to do what? In order to accomplish what? Because all conversations are supposed to be producing something that has constructive value. Otherwise, you don't have any business having a conversation. And if people just lock that into their brains, there'll be a whole lot of talk that'll be greatly reduced, I'll tell you that, right off the bat. Because a lot of conversations I hear just walking down the sidewalk consist of name-calling and people yelling sometimes into their cell phones. I mean, you can hear them across the street. They're cursing somebody out. That is not constructive conversation. You're not supposed to have that type of conversation ever. See what I mean? Because that's not conversation. That's argument. And black people should get away from arguments, period. White people too. Because they are not what? Not constructive. Everything that a person does should have a constructive result. Otherwise, you break contact until you can do some thinking about how you can go about having a constructive interaction, communication with someone in the form of conversation, not an argument.
TalktainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalktainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio, the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and you can get in contact with the show by going to Facebook.com/Talktainment, where you can see and hear the program. There also is a like button and comment button there. Or you can do this by calling 1-877-932-9766, which seems to be the primary one today, or the numeral 7 of my Gmail account, numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY @gmail.com. Before we go to the phone lines, Mr. Fuller, this is the 45-minute section, so it is time for you to speak again briefly on your book and where we can get it.
Yes. Go to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Like product, you're trying to produce something. What is it you're trying to produce? Or should be trying to produce something that's missing. That's why I call it the compensatory code. Compensatory meaning you're making up for what's missing. Well, what is missing? A thing called justice. It doesn't exist anywhere on the planet. Because you can't have people being mistreated and people wanting what they need that is of constructive value and not getting it. If those two elements are not present, constructive needs that are met by every person, help that is needed, and the other, a guarantee that no one is mistreated. No one. If someone is being mistreated and or people are not getting the constructive help that they need, you don't have justice. So as it stands right now on this particular planet called Earth, justice doesn't exist. And it's impossible for justice to exist in a system of white supremacy. Why? Because the system of white supremacy is designed to mistreat people and to guarantee that people do not get the constructive help that they need. It's deliberately designed for that, because it's designed to glorify mistreating people based on color. That's what it's for. It serves no other constructive purpose. That's what racism is for. It's about mistreatment. It's about no such thing as pride. And I want to interject this too. Black people are not members of a race. We never have been. What would we be racing against? But the white supremacists are always talking about race. They must have invented that. Race what? Racing against something. Racing against time. How are you going to race against time? You use time. That's not even possible. You're going to race against time? Time is going to be here. Even when nothing else is here, there's time. Everything began with time. But you're going to race against time. No, you might rush to get from one place to another in a hurry, but you're not racing against it. But see, this idea of I got to be doing something that sounds like it's destructive, that's the white supremacist mentality. You build up things, a lot of things, in order to do what? Tear down and glorify in tearing down. They'll go out and catch a sick fox and nurse it back to health. Make sure, give it the best of health. Give that fox better health than it gives to people. And then when the fox gets real healthy, you know, you make sure that everything is all checked out. The fox can really run faster than any fox ever ran. Then you turn the fox loose. Then you do what? Tally ho! Get on your horses and let's go chase the fox. Chase it to death. All right? And consider ourselves heroes. And they do the same thing with people of color. They nurse us back to health. If we're sick, they'll nurse us. I mean, that's the kind of mentality they have. And as soon as we get healthy and it looks like we're going to make a real breakthrough and do something constructive, they turn us loose and tell us to run and then shoot us in the back. And then stand over us with the gun and say, hey, I'm a hero. Did you see me do that? Everybody applaud. That's what this book is about. It's about countering that type of thing, coming up with a code, a way of thinking, speaking, and acting tailored to each individual. That's to counteract this and eliminate it and replace it with a system of replace that system of white supremacy with a better system, and that system would be the system of justice, which has never been produced by anybody in recorded history. You get that book by going to producejustice.com, and it's addressed to the individual person. You don't have to check with anybody. You just pick out the stuff that works for you, you use it. The stuff that doesn't work for you, ignore it, because it doesn't work for you. It's very democratic.
Okay. What line are we going to? Line number one. Okay, line number one, you are on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead, please.
Hello. I just had a quick question about the website, producejustice.com. Fuller talked about movie recommendations coming up here in the near future. I was wondering, what the timetable is on that. Can we expect it soon?
I don't have a time that I have set because I have to get with somebody in order to do that. I have to coordinate with their time. I'm sort of like a one or two people or three people operation, depends on what stage I'm in at any given time. And so I have to work with other people and work with their schedule. These are other non-white people who are trying to help out. And I have been having to put off some things on my movie list. I really want to get that movie list on the website, but I've just about got it down in the order that I would recommend that people see the movies. That's the thing that I have to do now. I have the list of about 52 movies, and I might add some or subtract some. I don't know. I don't think I'll subtract any, but it's about 52 movies that I recommend. But I want the movies to be seen in a certain sequence so that you get context. Context means a whole lot. I talk about context in the code book. I mean, and I think that if a person sees these movies in a certain sequence, at different times, different places, and pick up the lessons as we go along, I'll have a whole list of lessons that you look for alongside the movies. Lessons about what are you looking for in this scene, persistence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just a little detail work that I have to do, but I am working on it. It's annoying me that I haven't done it by now, because I should have done it a long time ago, but things keep coming up.
All right. From the numeral 7, MrBobby@gmail.com. This is under VGQ. Sip Hep Hilo in South Africa said, in the South Africa concept. They have convinced the masses of black people to use the words, quote, white monopoly capital, end of quote, when referring to the white supremacist. I'm seeing the racists twisting the words now. They are printing minority capital in newspapers and pamphlets and directing the words to non-white people, quote, monopoly capital, end of quote. They are trying to get us, the black people, to kill one another by deepening illusions of division among us in South Africa. We are mainly categorized in 4, quote, race groups, end of quote, black, white, colored, and Indian. And then the category by dividing us up into tribes. So these days, I am observing a lot of the tribal talk. Mr. Fuller, please make it possible for us here to get your book. I think we need it in high school. They, the white supremacists, are messing us up big time. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I'm working on that too. I was just able to get to the UK with great difficulty. That's been stretched out for several years now, and still is not available in the UK the way that it ought to be. And but I'm trying to get that done, and at the same time get the pricing in such a manner that's another holdup. And also fan out definitely to places like South Africa and Nigeria and Congo and places like that. I want this book to be all over the world, okay? And I'm trying to figure out how I can go about doing it. And I'm looking for information that will help me to do it.
Yes, sir.
In a manner that I have control. See, that's one thing I do have to have. Why? Because the white supremacists, if they see that it's going to be farmed out, that what I'm trying to do is going to be farmed out to various people, including some black people, in a way that I don't know what people are doing. The white supremacists know how to infiltrate everything very fast. And this was already beginning to happen. This is why I had to put out a notice for some people, to ask some black people to stop doing certain things, because the white supremacists began to say that, hey, Fuller's just, he's putting out this, he's trying to hoard it and whatnot, at the same time trying to disseminate it. And that has always been a problem. But it wasn't so much me trying to hoard it, it's that I'm trying to control it so that it doesn't get polluted, okay? Because the white supremacists know how to do all kinds of things. They can take a message that starts out to be one thing, and I've seen them do this with other people's material. It starts out being one thing, 10 years later, you can't recognize it.
Yes, sir.
Because it's turned into something else altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And then find it just dissipated. Okay?
Okay.
And they know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And they already have their plans made of how they're going to do that with my material.
Yes, sir.
The minute I'm dead, you're going to start hearing a little of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's going to contradict everything I've written. That's why I try to get it in the forms that it is on paper,
Mm-hmm.
And even review that, because sometimes I make mistakes on paper. And definitely I do it on the internet when I'm talking. And I like for these mistakes to be pointed out, too.
Yes, sir.
And then some things that look like mistakes are not mistakes, okay? So I have to watch that, too. All right?
Yes, sir. All righty. Let's go to the phone lines. Line 1. Okay, line 1, you're... Oh, excuse me, line 3? Okay, line 3, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please. 1, 2, 3. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, please. Okay. Couldn't get it. All right. This comes from the Gmail, Mr. Fuller, from Robert Smothers. This comes from September 23rd. Mr. Fuller, I recently saw a video of a suspected white supremacist verbally attacking a non-white male. She screamed and began to kick a few bags he had lying on the ground. At some point, he began to punch her, etc., in my view. In self-defense, another black male then punched the first black male, which was, in my view, an effort to protect the suspected white supremacist. Was this a codified response for both black males?
Well, we are all in a prison, if I understand this scenario. I mean, it sounds like a little bit of chaos there. But what the code calls for is that you help the person who needs help the most if the person is being incorrectly treated, if you can. But you have to do this within the context and thinking within the context of what is going to happen after you do what you do and by whom. You think about that all the time before you make any move. And we got to remember, all non-white people are prisoners of war. So lots of things happen in a prison. So as a prisoner, if you see something going on, you have to make the judgment that what will be the constructive result if I do whatever it is that I'm going to do in reaction to what I'm looking at. After all of this quiets down and people are talking about it, and the people who have authority over me and what I did, see, always keep that in mind. What are they going to do to me? And am I okay with that? Okay? So that's an individual decision, because I didn't quite understand all of the details, like I sometimes don't.
Okay.
Just what was just said, but it sounds like there was a little bit of chaos there.
Okay.
And who was doing what and who was doing what correctly and all like that. But whomever gets involved in it, okay, has to have in mind, now, a week from now, what is everybody who has authority over me going to say about what I did in reaction to what I saw going on and how I intervened?
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
What are they going to do? And whether or not you'll be okay with what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This also comes from the Gmails. Financial Freedom wrote, does Neely Fuller support an NFL team full of kneelers?
That's the question?
That is the question. Does Neely Fuller support an NFL team full of kneelers?
Full of kneelers?
That's what it says, kneelers.
Kneelers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, you know, that's the United Independent thing. It's not what Neely Fuller supports. These are choices made by the individuals. What does the code say about what a victim of white supremacy says about what another victim of white supremacy's reaction is to racism? The code says I have a duty as a victim of racism, as an equal prisoner to all other prisoners, to not disapprove of anything, message that is said or any symbolizing that is done by another victim that has to do in opposite, that has connections with opposition to the system of white supremacy. I cannot pass judgment on that. It's not a matter of whether I support it or not. I am duty bound not to criticize it, all right? Because that's their choice.
Yes.
And since I am not, all prisoners are equal in the system of white supremacy. All prisoners of the system of white supremacy are equal. I can't pass judgment on what another prisoner's reaction is to racism.
All righty. TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, and radio the way it should be heard. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers and listeners and Facebookers. We will hopefully see you next week. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalktainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters.